I was able to do it.
Good deal.
So
There we go.
I wanted to figure out how to get myself set up as host and recording before we actually got to the hour. So we're all set. Nathaniel said that he is a couple weeks behind on transferring Zoom recordings to um, the YouTube site for HamSCI, but he will catch up when he has some time.
I don't often go back to those.
There's Phil.
Howdy.
Hello. Welcome. Five minutes.
I hope everybody's getting ready for next week's Festival of Meteor Scatter event.
Oh, yeah.
We probably should remind people of that. That's August 11th and 12th, I guess, huh?
Yes, we should. Be sure you remind me again when you get your chance to talk.
Perseids.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
next week.
I once went to the desert side of Washington and laid on a rock all night watching them.
Yeah, that is exciting. We did something like that in Huntsville once. Yeah, I've got my system where I can operate on 6 meters and 10 meters for that. Not exactly a contest, but an event.
An event, yes.
It's this event. MSQP, the Meteor Scatter QSO Party. MSK 144.
Oh, Clint's mobile.
Well, yes, but if you notice,
On
we're
a
going to,
tower.
yeah, well, yeah, there's a tower where you can tell we're going up. We're on a 110-foot man lift.
Oh,
So let me go this way. Yeah, we have we have our
broke up a little.
lost connection.
There you are.
There we go.
Okay.
Put the camera around. Right there.
Okay. I don't know if we still connectivity may be spotty, but yeah, we're fixing that antenna there.
Oh,
Yeah, we got up there yesterday, and birds had ripped the outer jacket and the braid off the jumper wire to the feed line.
oh. Pesky birds.
Yeah, so we put a whole bunch of bird spikes in the feed area. So we're adding a few more panels of bird spikes at this point. But yeah, we're at 80 feet now. So anyway, we don't want to dominate the discussion yet. We'll mute it, and you'll probably see some weird video happening.
Okay.
Hopefully
Well,
nothing. Hopefully nothing of the ground suddenly getting big really fast.
none of us are doing anything quite so daring and interesting as that right now.
Right. Yeah, it's about, I don't know, 90 degrees. Is that right?
Oh,
Sure. Yeah. It's about 90 degrees, but the humidity is practically nothing. So
yeah.
anyway. I'll mute. So
Okay.
I can find the mute.
Well, welcome to the August 5th, 2025 session of TAPR-HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S. And this week I've been working on a couple things, trying to get some radios configured and cleaning up the shack, and trying to start working towards what my vision of having everything set up beyond Whisper Demon. And I'm getting there, but slowly. So next on the list, we have Dave, KD0 EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I've not a lot of excitement here. Been working on some board PCB designs and trying to get some stuff for Nathaniel. But otherwise, not much to report.
Okay.
Over to you guys.
And I do want to mention Nathaniel will not be here tonight because he is traveling with a group of students over to Tim Duffy's contest site in Western Pennsylvania. So they're there. They'll be there most of the week. And so that's why he's not here right now. So next on the list, we have Dave Julian, WB9YIG. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, good evening, folks. Not much going on over here. Got a lot of yard work done. Had some gorgeous weather this weekend. So that's about it. Little antenna work. Back to the net.
Okay. Next on the list is Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Good evening, all. Well, we have not had such nice weather. Been kind of overcast. I haven't gotten much done. Got a little bit of antenna work, but I just can't get myself out to do it with this weather. But spending most of my time with doctors these days. Back to net, K4BSE.
Well, sorry for that, unfortunate, but I guess they're a necessary evil.
Yep.
Next on the list is Dave H, W6OQ. Go ahead.
Yep. Hi, good evening from Los Angeles. The only thing happening around here is getting started on our bathroom remodel. We had demolition on Monday and towards the end of the week, and today we had asbestos remediation. So ripping out some drywall and taking cottage cheese off the ceilings. Yeah, fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay. Next on the list is Jonathan, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan. I don't know if Jonathan, you there?
Yes, sorry about that. Hi everybody. I've been didn't really do a lot of VLF related stuff this past week. I was busy with other stuff, but I'm looking at the parts required to build the actual VLF antennas. So I put an order into McMaster-Carr to get them going, and I should have the latest version of the VLF preamp PCB coming this week, coming Wednesday, so I could assemble another one, do a mechanical fit, and Majid will be making a holder to hold it inside a pipe, similar to the 3D printed holders that are used in the magnetometer. So there's definitely progress being made with that. I'm eager to build one up and test it out. That's all I have. Back to the net.
Very good. Thank you, Jonathan. Next on the list is Paul Elliott, WB6CXC. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, hi everybody. I've been working on, first of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Been working on a few things. I've actually put them together in the form of a tiny little presentation. I don't know if you want to do that now or later. But I've been working on that balun for the twisted pair to 50 ohm interface, working on the supercapacitor backup, and my little digital 1 watt digital interface 1 watt transmitter, or amplifier. I put that on a board for my convenience, but a few other people have expressed interest in that. And doing a little bit of work on the time sync stuff. So I can go into detail now or later. Why don't we let, I'll return to the net, and then when it opens
Yeah.
up, I can share this stuff.
I know also Scott has parts to go with that too.
Yes. No, Scott and I have been trading email
Yes.
off and on.
I've seen some of the emails that Scott sent out, and sounds very promising.
No, looking forward to moving ahead on that.
Okay. Next on the list is Phil Karn, K9Q. Go.
Hi, Dave. I'll pass right now.
Okay. And next on the list is, well, we jump over Rob and let's go to Scott.
Hey, been a
Yes,
busy
go.
week. Made good progress on the sync recording stuff. I was able to test Clint's FX3 Watchdog in a real crash situation. Worked great. That was exciting. And going back to 2017 or so, I bought a $7 USB to VGA dongle with the Fresco Logic chipset that can be a 3-channel, 8-bit, 150 megasample DAC with no filter. So kind of a TX444, if you will. I guess everybody played with those years ago, and I'm just now catching up. So that's about it for me. Back to
Very
that.
good. Next on the list, we have Tom in 5EG. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, good evening, Dave, everyone in the group. Let me get my mouse on the button. My mouse aiming accuracy is degrading, I guess. Not much to report. Still working on quad board. A few emails with folks and pouring over the Mauser site, getting part numbers and footprints, and I get to learn how to do layout in KiCad. Back to the group.
Okay. And I want to let everybody know, you'll see a Utah SDR. That's Clint and I forgot the name of his friend, but there he is. Who's that up with you, Clint?
It's Brett, KG7
Okay,
Radio.
Brett. I just wanted to get your name in there. You guys have the most exciting position to call into the Zoom call.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
They're on the top of one of their antennas, replacing, trying to scare away birds.
Right. Yeah. So this is the this antenna is what, 65-foot boom, weighs 3/4 of a ton. It covers 6 through 40 megahertz, log periodic. Rated for 50 kilowatts, although we only use it for receive these days, of course. But I'll hand you this. We discovered that the feed point up here. Let me turn around. I'm harnessed in, so I only have limited motion. But this is an EIA flange. The cable, the coax that had been going up there, the shield and the braid had been torn off by birds. So now you can see we have these lovely spikes. And we also encased a piece of coax in radiator hose. Went to the O'Reilly's and got some radiator hose, and then there's some dimensional PVC lumber down there to keep the birds from getting out there, and we mounted these spikes too. So we're still mounting spikes. Hopefully that will keep them from tearing things apart again, because we only get this 110-foot man lift every so often, so we want to we want to make the best of it. Anyway, don't want to dominate the meeting, so back to you.
Okay, and so I think that's everybody on the list. So,
Well, I just, you didn't.
oh, did we miss
didn't-
you, Bill?
Dave
I'm
McGraw,
sorry.
too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
And then we can get Rob.
Oh, yeah, and Rob.
Been busy. I needed to develop something for Nathaniel to actually be able to delete an observation. And it sounds like it would be easy, but you know, when you edit to the database, there's all of these relationships that have to be taken care of for referential integrity. So you got to delete the intersection data that tells you things like what band and what frequencies, and anyway, so got that working this morning, deleted some things from the K3LR testing. So we're still waiting to see if K3LR uploading of data will work. I didn't see any when I looked at it a few minutes ago, so, but anyway, my colleagues at the High Performance Computing Center have gotten, I think, 10 of the hard drives now imported into the system. So we've got, oh no, we're consuming about 77 terabytes so far on that. And spent the weekend at the Detroit Highland Festival, and the telephone poles were particularly difficult to throw this year because the ground was so wet. You want to throw it in such a way that it lands and it goes end over end, but most of them tended to just dig into the ground because the ground was kind of damp. So we didn't see as many exciting throws as but when somebody actually did it, that was exciting. So I only saw a couple of successful throws. You got to throw them so they fly end over end. You've got to be quite an athlete to be able to do that. But anyway, I guess that's it for me. Back to Ned.
Okay, I do have a comment that Scott Newell gave me some information about how my Whisper Demon setup might be overloading the memory, and he gave me an idea how to fix it. I did it and it did fix it. So I'm back to full bandwidth on the RX 888 fake grape.
Oh, Dave, you just reminded me. That was another thing I did this past week. I got my RX 888 system back online. I don't have it connected to a very good antenna now, but it is reporting of some spots. So I've got to do a better antenna, but
Okay.
it's back online. So
Yeah, and I'm
So-
here too.
Yes, I'm going to get to you. And so let's call on Dave McGaw. Go ahead.
Yeah, came in late. But yeah, my excitement right now is not HF, it's UHF. I'm trying to piece together a ground station for our CubeSat that we just launched. Dartmouth actually just launched two different spacecraft, one called Tracers, which is a double spacecraft, and Real, which is a CubeSat, both of which are studying the particles up in the upper atmosphere. Real is doing relativistic particles coming in from the radiation belts, and then the other one is particles up in the cusp region of the Earth's magnetic field. But anyway, we're trying to put together a UHF satellite ground station as a backup for the Real CubeSat. So that's my excitement for the week. Back to Net.
Very good. And we have Rob Robinette. Sorry, Rob. I usually let you have the end so you can talk on.
That's fine. I've been known to do that, but I think yeah, Bill reminded me that I had introduced a problem that I guess you and others have encountered, in that I changed the name of the directory where we store the WAV files.
Yeah.
And I failed to account for that. So those legacy WAV file archives weren't being flushed. So I have, in the recent commits to Whisper Demon, I've added that. I've added a recovery mode that recovers those files. So it does so in a graceful way, in that it seeks to preserve that legacy data to the extent possible, given the storage space available on the file system. So I'm never going to change a directory system name again. I've had to put in all kinds of various points, and I realized all the places. I mean, I put in I had a name. It's a variable that has the directory name in it. So I thought I'll just change this name, and it will, and yeah, sure enough, all of the routines that referenced it used it and proceeded, but I just did not account for what was being left behind. So
well, I wanted to credit Scott for picking up on that.
yeah, I think he was the one who pointed that out, and so if you're having problems then do a get pull, and the most recent code will tell you that it's doing it. And it can take a while. I mean, you can have gigabytes of data in the legacy wave file tree. So it can take a while. It could take a while to move all of those. I've just moved the files. I mean, it's not like I'm even copying them, but even moving what can be tens of thousands of files from one directory to another in the same file system takes time. So it can take many minutes, which I warned you about. And along a similar vein, I've been working on a number of enhancements to another enhancement, which is as I deploy the code on many systems, I realized that there are many systems that are misconfigured, and that for FFTs that they're not fully optimized. So if you go to the K9Q page and start zooming in and out, you can overload the CPU because the zoom asks for a spectrum that it has not pre-calculated the optimal FFT for. So Bill clued me in. I didn't really realize this, that you can, if it has been calculated, the optimizer recognizes that and quickly goes through the whole process. So I'm just able to I know all of the profiles that need to be calculated, and I've just today put those all in. But there's a question for the group here, which is all of the sites I'm working at, I run the 888s at 129 megasamples. I see no reason not to do so. I mean, I even brought up the site ZD7GB this afternoon out on Ascension Island, where there's he has an i5 4570, must be 15 years old. Even that device, that CPU, can do 129 megasamples. And given that many sites don't benefit from Paul's 30 megahertz low pass filter, and their default is to run at 64 megasamples, which means there's lots of aliasing problems. My temptation is to have Wisterbeeman enforce that by default, there'll always be a way to override it, but by default to have Wisterbeeman run our Wisterbeeman grade sites at 129. Now the cost of that is that if I do that, most of these sites are going to have to run through the optimizer. And even on a B-Link, I just ran it on a B-Link of 5560. It took 2 hours to do the optimization on the for 129. I mean, most of it was 129. 80% of the time was spent doing the 129 profile. So the question is do we agree that it's appropriate to make the 129 the default? And as everybody who does a commit would by default, it may sit there when they wake up and have Wisterbeeman running the optimizer for an hour or 2 hours if you aren't already configured properly. The benefit being you don't get corrupted data, and you run at 129. So that's my there's also, I'm working on the server, but that's a different issue. We're making progress there. It is amazing if you putting together a server. Brett clued me in to Server Monkey, where I was able to buy 2 terabyte drives, refurbished Dells, for $38 each. So they're Dell drives, and that's half the price I was paying for. And those are SATA drives, or SAS drives instead of SATA, so they're more compatible with the server. So anyway, if you're buying drives for a server, that's what I did, and it was marvelously inexpensive. So I'll go back to net, but I could go on, but
Okay.
those are the major things I've been working on.
Do you have a net or one of
Well, well, there we go. I guess we have Bob has jumped in here. I want to give him a chance to say something, and then we'll go to Paul and Scott after Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, hello everyone. I've been busily working on my projects here. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I made this multi-project board, and this is my second one actually, and I've got a lot of boards on here to sort of go through the bring up process. And several of them have different processors on them and need to have code written for them. So now I've soldered most of the boards on, including this one here, which is a FX3 development board that you can get from Mauser for about 40 bucks. So it's the same chip that's in the RX 288. And I built this little piggyback board that plugs into this. It has an A to D on it that I was starting out targeting for the VLF stuff. So it should do 250 kilohertz of sample rate and feedback through the FX3 chip, and hopefully have a driver that'll run back into Phil Karn's code so that it could be used at that level. And so I'm busily writing code, I guess, at this point, and I'm a slow code writer, I think. I keep getting interrupted by other little things that are going on in my life here. But that's all I have for right now. Back to you.
That's the long-going lament of coders is it's easy to code if you can stay focused, but it's hard when you keep getting interrupted.
Let me mention one other thing. I have a ultra low noise power supply I built onto this board too, and I built that separately. And there was some discussion earlier about issues with power supplies. And I also have one that's a dual power supply that I did that's ultra low noise as well. So those
Very
are coming
good.
along.
Will be interesting to look at those boards. So, okay, that now we have this discussion with Scott and Paul about their developments this week. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, let me jump in. I'm going to share some slides here. Basically, let's see where I can find it. Okay, this looks like it. Yeah. Okay, do you see something there? It says Balun.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So yeah, this isn't so much about the time sync, but I'll get there eventually. This is more of like, you know, what I did on my summer vacation thing, or what I did last week, really. So Balun, this is for testing the twisted pair. I got them, I tested them. You know, schematics really, really simple. This is my my test setup using like 4 inches of Cat 6 cable. And yeah, the transformers are not great at the lower end. Below a megahertz, they roll off a bit quicker than some of the other transformers I could use on that. But anyway, so this is back to back, so you know all the attenuation numbers you cut in half, because here we're seeing, you know, 2 of them together. Yeah, here's the low frequency attenuation, and oh yeah, the return loss is pretty decent, 20 dB lying here. And at the below, you know, 300 kilohertz, we're down some. And anyway, so getting some behavior, some put a 100 ohm dummy load on just one, and you know, the return loss is still close to minus 20 dB. Here's Cat 6 cable. I just thought, you know, how it's different than Cat 5e. It's got that little spacer, so I thought I'd do some comparisons. Oh, and the wire gauge is heavier, so that's kind of interesting. But here from 1 to 100 megahertz, this is my reference, which is the 4-inch cable. So that's really hopefully just transformer characteristics. And this is 1 dB per division here, so it's not much variation. But you can see the attenuation of 100 feet of Cat 5e, which is the gray. No, actually, yeah, that's the gray one. And the Cat 6 actually has very slightly more attenuation, which is interesting. There's probably less crosstalk and less ohmic resistance, so you could carry more power, DC phantom power over it. And then I took it out to a gigahertz, and you can see my back-to-back transformers. And this one's 3 dB per division. But you can see the Cat 5 and Cat 6, not enough difference to really worry about. So I thought that was interesting. The next thing I did, I sent this board out. I got this block here represents the 1.25 farad supercap. I got 2 of those, so I carefully measured dimensions and figured out how to fit it in one of the black boxes I use. And so I'm having 5 of these made, and I have 2 capacitors, but if it works, I'll probably get some more. See if anybody wants them. Sounds like there's some interest in that. And again, this is essentially Clint's design. I tweaked it here and there, but I added a common mode choke. But it's substantially the same as Clint's design. My 1 watt amplifier. I'm sorry.
What voltage does the capacitor, the supercapacitor, operate at?
Up to like 21 volts, and so this will just give you 1 or 2 seconds of power while your uninterruptible power supply interrupts things. And the small, like the NUC computers we're using, their power supplies maybe don't ride over these power glitches as well as, say, a desktop computer's built-in power supply. And so people have been seeing power glitches causing computers to crash, lock up, whatever. So this provides just enough power to ride through that transition period. So, but this is kind of voltage. It'll work at 9 volts. It'll work at 12. It'll work at 19 or 17. It's just the capacitor charges up to whatever the power supply feeding it gives it. And then if that power supply goes away, the capacitor gets switched in with a kind of the lossless diode technique using the PFET switching transistor. So again, see, no reason it won't work, but bad stuff happens. I've been also using, I've been testing out my Class E power amplifier, and to use that, I'm going to drive it with the 1 watt output. This is essentially the Whispersond output stage. But and I had a few of the older boards lying around from the Beacon Blaster, but they're wires, and it's not really designed as a standalone unit. And the other day I applied 12 volts to one of them. Well, it's a 5-volt board, 5-volt logic. So that, so much for that board. It's didn't smoke, but it sure doesn't work anymore. So I decided, no, I wanted to put it in a box. And I've had a few people I've sent a few of these boards to a couple of people, just experimenters, because they just liked having 1 watt of power. So this, you can feed in a logic level, and you get a 1 watt square wave out. Gets powered from a USB-C, 5-volt port there. And I got a few other things, indicators, and overcurrent protection and stuff like that. So that's for my convenience, but it might be useful to someone else. And here we go. Scott, this is what I was mentioning in my last email. Got the modulator. Rob was talking about having Glenn put up a receiver with the BPSK modulator injector that I have right here in this bag. Up close to next door to WWV, and that sounds good to me. But I want to do something besides build the, the modulator. So if anybody is going to be prepared to listen to it and take some off the air measurements, I'm got all the pieces and I'm finalizing the code to do this little beacon, 1 watt, some ham band, probably adjacent to the whisper bands, but we can talk about that. And I'm just suggesting a sequence here. Very simple, 1 second, PPS driven BPSK, and then a gap where you can do Morse code on-off keying identification and whatever message that one might want to send to identify what the hell it is that you just transmitted. So I'd like to, Scott, like to talk with you about that and anyone else who's interested in coming up with a method for doing time of flight, time of arrival measurements. Initially we're talking, using WWV, and it's, 1 second time pulses, time ticks, and as sort of a calibration system, reference source. But I'd really like to see other people put up transmitters that do this so we can get, a good range of measurements out of it. And that's it for my presentation. Questions?
Doesn't Steve Serwin have a bunch of time of flight techniques that he's developed?
Yeah, I believe so. He's shared a little bit of email with me. There are all sorts of techniques. I'm looking at ham band. I'm looking at stuff that's easy and cheap to implement. Whether it's good enough for practical use is another question. It's better than what we have now in, with Whisper and all that. Yeah, there are probably better ways if all you're interested in doing is time of flight, time of arrival measurements, and you're not constrained by, the ham requirements. But this is something that I think, I don't know, I'm interested in it. See if anyone else is.
Can you tell me what you would transmit in terms of being able to recover time
Well, the initial, just because that's what we've been talking about mostly, is just, 1 second BPSK, every second the phase inverts. And that's it. You turn it on, I'm suggesting turn on the carrier and, and for 1 minute, you'd have 60, once a second, there'd be 60 phase reversals in that 1 minute. And then you shut it off, and do an ID, and then you wait, and then at the beginning of the next 2 minute frame, you'd do it all over again. And those numbers are completely arbitrary. Doesn't have to be 2 minutes, doesn't have to be once a second, but we've got the PPS, GPS derived PPS available. So I think that's a good place to start. I would be interested in a faster digital BPSK sequence that, was also synchronized to the GPS, and 1 second PPS maybe would start the thing off, but run it at maybe a 50 or 64 or 128 bits per second of data, and we could that would include time data, but it could also include other stuff, identification of the station, all sorts of things. Kind of a sped spectrum-ish type of approach. Not that we're allowed to use it, but we do plenty of stuff that's similar to that. But initially, 1 second PPS, BPSK is what I'm assuming we're going to want to do. Anyone else? I can stop sharing this. Let me see. How do I do that?
I was wondering if Scott has anything to add to.
Well, it sounds like the local reference put over the air. I would expect that we'll be able to get it. Looking at Clint's email from the eclipse, he did a 1/2 watt out of Texas, and I'm able to see his 1 hertz BPSK signal in my recordings. But I'm honestly a little more excited about your 512 or 1.023 kilohertz chip rate idea. That was more interesting to me.
Well, that's more interesting to me too, actually. I can get my time accuracy I was just looking just before this call, looking at interrupt service routine timing and synchronization to 10 megahertz reference, and I can get within a few microseconds of time accuracy just in this doing it that part in software, well, software and hardware. If we want tighter timing than that, then it's going to require, well, either different hardware of some sort or another. It's not complicated. It's just something I don't happen to have on my bench at the moment. But yeah, and I'm trying to do this with, just to keep things simple, trying to do this with constant amplitude. And constant amplitude BPSK means you don't have, kind of baseband filtering or shaping on your symbols. It's not a linear modulation. It's just, a digital modulation. But with call it a chip rate of 64 bits per second, something on that order, we are within the, what is it, 2.4, 2.8 kilohertz occupied bandwidth requirement that we now have. So we can still send, fair amount of bits, even with the hard edge BPSK, without doing symbol filtering. And that makes it easy because we don't need to have, you go constant amplitude everywhere. We don't need to have linear or at least complicated amplifiers in the chain or modulators. It can all be done, and it's not hard, but it's just ridiculously simple if we allow ourselves to go with hard BPSK unfiltered. And I've listened to the 1 PPS hard BPSK. Those sidebands disappear so quickly. I don't think anybody's really going to notice. If they're tuned right onto it, they'll hear the tick, tick, tick. But once you get a kilohertz, once you get your carrier leaves your 3 kilohertz receiver passband, you don't hear those other sidebands. They are just so far down. Which math tells us they would be, but it's nice to confirm that. So, but again, this is all work in progress. This is me more thinking out loud than anything, but I like to think out loud with the soldering iron in my hand, so I like to build stuff and then figure out why to do it. Yeah, anyone else? I'll return it back to the net unless anyone's got any questions for me.
I've been toying around with the idea of a 6-meter beacon for meteor scatter, and this could be an IF for that, possibly, if it all would multiply up and still work and hold things like it needs to. Sort of an over the horizon beacon for me to install someplace out here.
This would actually, all the hardware I showed back there, or the boxes with arrows and names on them I showed, that works up at 6 meters. I mean, all those bits and pieces. I mean, the whisper sound transmits at 6 meters, and these are most of these things are designs that kind of came out of the whisper sound, and I just extracted and repurposed. But it can also, certainly get a lower frequency signal out of it, and then use standard mixing techniques to get it up to whatever frequency you want.
Okay.
Lots of options.
Has there been any progress on spinning up a second site with your local timing reference hardware that would really help me a lot.
Well, we don't even have one yet. I'm Rob, I'd like to ask you, have you would mention Glenn possibly hosting one of those. I don't know, did anything happen with that?
I forgot to ask him, to be honest. I've been uh,
You've been busy, I know.
distracted by other things.
How is your wife doing, by the way?
It's fine. Well, you know, it's a painful procedure, and recovery is she's 2 weeks into it. So it's you know, better than it was, but it's still pretty painful for her. So
Yeah.
that's why you'll see me step aside here. I'm both home healthcare support right now. So
No, and that's the rehab's just so critical in that. I know
yeah,
my
well,
dad
that
had
part.
some stuff like that, and he didn't do the rehab. He was really old, but he never got better really.
Well, I think she will. It's not. They even took X-rays today, 2 weeks later, and everything is perfectly in place. So, uh,
And another friend of mine, older than me, had like both knees done, and he's more agile than I am now. I mean,
yeah,
so there's if you do it right, and
yeah,
he persevered in the rehab, so
yeah.
that was
I
good
don't think.
news.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's a lack of discipline for Sandy. It's just the time. Um, I I think it's just marvelous you're working on the timing, you and Scott. So I'm and I hope to turn my attention to support you guys, and you know, part of that is getting uh Glenn's receive site. I'm sure he could add. You know, it wouldn't cost him anything to add the injector to one of his receivers. So, but it just fell off my to-do list.
Okay, and I would really love to get some more feedback on frequencies and amplitudes. We've got this kind of scheme where we are creating a signal that's above the Nyquist rate, and relying it for no small reason to avoid retransmitting that out the antenna, because there are going to be filters, low pass filters that would block that from being retransmitted. And for that matter, if there's a preamp, that's going to block it too. But
Yeah,
just the amplitude and the frequency, we picked some numbers that seem to make sense, but that requires, attenuators and filter components, you know, on this board, and it's easy to put whatever we want on there, but once it's on here, it's not going to change until somebody attacks it with a soldering iron. And it would be nice to
yeah,
have them all the same, I think. So I'd
yeah,
like to get some feedback on, did we make the
yeah,
right choice, or should we pick some other frequencies?
yeah. I mean, the other place to put it would be Dave Schwartz's site. Um, I keep planning to ship him a new server, uh, be a Whisper Demon server for his WWV receive site, but I just haven't had time to go through and get it all set up, and I've started to use it and testing my software, so it's hard to let go of it. Uh, so anyway, I will ask Glenn about hosting one of yours. And
Okay, no, I've got 4 boards I can let go of. One I want to keep, because that's going to be my my little
yeah,
beacon, I think.
yeah,
And I can make more. I mean, it's not, they're cheap and simple boards. It's not a problem.
well,
But I'd like to see 1 or 2 actually in use for it.
yeah. Well, no, it's I think I envision this being a part of every Whisper Demon grape receive site. So I mean, you know, if we can enhance them to get millisecond accuracy receives times or better. I guess we're kind of limited by the bandwidth of the signal we're receiving, right? It's that
Well, yes
constrains
and no. I mean, limited by the bandwidth, but then in your favor, you've also got how long do you want to, collect the data? Because the more you collect and
Yeah.
longer, you know, the tighter you can narrow it down.
Well, it isn't so much the narrowing down the beacon timing, but the signals we're listening to, you know, the clicks from coming out of WWV, the 1 second clicks, are 1 kilohertz or something, I think, or something like that. There's a burst of 1 kilohertz. So I think that those clicks, I guess, if you listen over time, but then we have the Doppler shift and ionospheric motion in there. So there's a trade-off between the resolution of the time of flight and the duration of the measurement. And so you trade off, you know, one or the other. But I think that
Yeah, but
doing that
I
would be
mean,
an interesting.
yeah, but you don't lose the information if you have all the data. It's kind of like
No.
doing a you know, Allen variance
Yeah.
measurement or something where you've got all the data and you can look at different windows, you know,
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got all the data and you can look at it in different ways and collect the
Yeah.
short-term variations as well as the long-term. You know,
That's
then again,
great.
that's software I
look,
couldn't write, but it's possible.
well, that's what we need is we need people writing software and analyzing. And right now we've got Scott and Gwen doing this kind of work. I'm still working my way through just getting, you know, the Whisper Demon and 888 working reliably.
Well, look, if there's something that you need or would like me to do to help get some of these units, you know, out into the wild, let me know.
Oh, thank you.
At the moment, I'm kind of sitting on this one, waiting to hear who I should send it to.
I don't know if you want to start to wade into Whisper Demon software development.
No. No, I absolutely did not say that. No, I'm talking about
be
help.
careful.
I'm talking about help finding a home for these things.
Oh yeah, I think we have plenty of homes for them. I
Okay.
think every Grape Daisy site is a candidate for them.
And
so it's
Rob, you mentioned that you wanted some of these
balance
things. Is that still the case?
Yes, I would like a pair.
Well, here's a pair.
Okay.
I got a bunch of them.
Maybe I could send you something in return. I would, more importantly, I hope others in this group and in the larger community would appreciate the importance of using them. That's the critical thing. Is it's a little bit like the VNA that you know they're a tremendous tool, but you got to understand why you would want to use them and how. You know, it's like.
Yeah, if we're you know, if we're diagnosing, you know, or verifying that, you know, our twisted pair runs out to between the shack board and the antenna board, whatever, you know, it's just good to do a basic test. And this is with the equipment we have, we don't have a good way to do twisted pair, you know, loss measurements, you know, unless we have a balun. And that's all these things are just our balance. They also will let you test the power connections too. There are little LEDs on these connectors, and if you put power on the cable, the pairs that Glenn's using for his stuff, you know, the LED will light. So it's a useful diagnostic.
I'm really interested in those super capacitor UPS things.
Well, first thing to do is look at Clint's blog, his website.
I spent the afternoon almost entirely. I really was all set to order all the parts, but I decided not to push the button. I've got it all sitting there in DigiKey and stuff. But if you've made a board and it's a little different than what I was going off the blog, which is excellent. I've got to say, I really love that. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and the change I made it was really more to do with the LED indicators, and Clint and I had discussed that, changes that we both thought would be a good thing to do. And, they're trivial in terms of, how the thing functions. They might make it a little bit easier to tell what's going on, but it's not going to change the way it actually works. But yeah, I've got 5 of those boards, or I will have 5 of those boards,
Well,
and
I'm
they
not,
fit in my little black box, and
Mhm.
I have a faceplate. And
I'm not saying I want one of those, but if you do make it to productizing it, I sure want to buy one or two.
well, if there's demand, I will productize it. If there's not, I'll have one, and I can give a
Well,
Well,
couple away. But I'm
count me
hoping,
for two.
I think this could be a high demand item. I think a lot of people are, not just the Whisperson people, or the ham site people, might find it useful. And
Paul, I think that if you sent one to Dave, the three of us here in Columbia would all three love testing it.
okay,
So,
send me a note with an
okay,
address, and um, once I don't have my boards yet,
right.
so I'm gonna have to put one together and test it. Um,
Well, not trying to barge in on your prototypes unless you truly want somebody to test them, but I just want to get my, put in a vote for those things, because I think they're very interesting for any kind of instrumentation kind of application that falls in their
uh,
specs.
that was what I thought when I saw what Clint had done. Again, I'm
Hmm.
hats off to Clint for this, really. But yeah, no, I'd look forward to somebody, putting it through its paces, besides me. I'm
Yeah.
kind of hoping for that.
Well, I think you got plenty of people, but all of us want to not pressure you to.
No, I don't mind the pressure, really. I
Oh,
like
okay.
it. It tells me that maybe what I'm doing isn't all that stupid after all. So that's I definitely don't mind. And hey, I got a families here, and they're cooking, well, supposedly have dinner all ready for me now, so I should run pretty soon. But I can hang out a few more minutes if anyone wants to share anything that I haven't heard yet, or whatever. But I'll back to net unless somebody wants to
Okay.
ask me something. Yeah, there it is.
We haven't heard much from Phil. Uh, and I wonder if he's just engaged elsewhere, but he's been doing some interesting work in discussions in the signal. I mean, I'm overwhelmed with the signal, the K9Q radio signal group, because Glenn and Scott and Phil are busily talking about how to suppress the the self-induced noise spikes in the spectrum. If you connect up your 888 and put a dummy load on it, you'll see not just 27 megahertz, but a bunch of other lines in your spectrum.
Yeah.
And
I
and it appears
for,
that Phil has an approach that can suppress all those lines.
I got a message that Phil was not completely feeling like talking tonight, so I
Yeah,
don't know if he's
yeah,
up to it, but I don't want to cut him off
that's
if he does.
yeah. I understand. So I just thought I'm communicating on his behalf then, that
Yeah.
there's some interesting work he's doing there. And Phil, if you're listening, I do have these problems. I don't. I've seen them at other sites, but right now I see this multicast DNS problem at on one server at N3 AGE Elmer. Just can't K9Q. The K9Q doesn't run. the web doesn't run. The radio runs, Whisper Daemon runs, and log spots. But K9Q Web doesn't, because the DNS, multicast DNS services aren't getting addresses back. Not delivering addresses for the streams, especially the one that web tunes to. So I've seen this elsewhere, but we have a site that does it. And there's 3 servers there. 2 of them work fine. I don't know why this third one that he's brought up, just the DNS doesn't work. And I've exhausted my knowledge of Avanti, the DNS server that's used there. ChatGPT tells me that the multicast addresses are being wrongly registered. And I've tried Phil's suggestion to use static multicast address entries. Just as you have a etc host file, you can have an etc Avanti something or other host file, config file with host names in it. That didn't fix it. In fact, that just caused Avanti to complain. It doesn't like those entries. So I don't know where to go next. So anyway, that's as far as I knew how to get with my knowledge. So yes, yeah. You guys see that? Yeah, he's listening,
Yeah.
but he has a medical condition that occurs sometimes that makes it painful for him to talk. So
Yep.
Anyway, the I got interrupted, and I didn't know if anybody responded to my question about defaulting to 129 megasamples, but I may.
Well, and I think the group here would be biased towards that. And I can't think of a real good reason other than limited hardware that anybody would want to try that. But you're making a good case that it would work on even very limited hardware.
The only thing that platform I don't think it'd work on is the Orange Pi. And
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody running Orange Pi. I'm not even running Orange Pi anymore because
Okay.
it only runs at 64.
I think I was aware that Phil had some radios that he was running at 64, but I don't.
Yeah, I think
they were not Whisper Daemon type, but they
yeah.
were in the VHF or UHF range.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but I don't think he's running Whisper Daemon on those. He's just running his software raw.
Yeah,
so I
he's
don't
just
think,
running K9Q.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, so yeah, it's for FM beacon repeater monitoring. So that's an entirely different application. Let's see. I don't know. Is there other? What else is going on? I guess Michael isn't with us, and Helmer,
Michael's probably working tonight, so
he's working, or I would guess. Or that's
Dave and I are scheduled to see him tomorrow if he's not working.
yeah. Well, I don't know. There's not much. We've been trying to work on bringing up the servers, the new Whisper Daemon servers,
and he was he and Scott were both very helpful in solving my problems, so I was really pleased with that.
Okay, well, he's very knowledgeable, and I think that the documentation seems to be working pretty well. Michael's work there seems. I honestly haven't reviewed it until occasionally people ask questions about it, and point me at his documents, and I like, wow, Michael's done such a great job here. I don't think he's documented. I have switched to using Debian 12 as the
Yeah.
default platform, and I don't think we have instructions that fully elucidate
Yes.
how to install on Debian 12. Debian 12, they don't include Git, for example, in the default
Yes.
install. So that's and you have to set up the Whisper daemon user with sudo permissions as a
Right.
member of the group, sudo group. And doing that in the Debian 12 install, I don't know, I didn't know how to switch users, so I had to have a terminal console and then do the Control Alt F1 or something and switch to the character console and log in as root to get with. I didn't know how to anyway. Maybe somebody who's
Well,
more
I'm
experienced with Debian knows a better way than that.
currently running a couple machines with regular Debian 12, and I
Yeah.
have one Debian 13 machine just to have an idea what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also run the Mint Debian machines as well. So,
I don't know how Mint differs from Debian.
well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I don't. I know that people prefer it for some reason to Ubuntu, and I have a reason now why I don't like Ubuntu is that
Yeah.
the resetting the network stack problem that took me 2 months to
Yes.
deal with.
So to
So
switch users, can't you just do an SU and the username you want to switch to?
not if you can't switch to root unless you're a
Well,
member of the sudo group. So
right.
so that there's a chicken and egg problem there. So you have to log in as root in order to be able to allow the Whisper daemon or any user to be part of the sudo group, so they can run sudo.
Yes.
So you have to actually. My experience was you had to have a terminal attached, console, a keyboard and monitor attached to the server, and switch the graphical user. It comes up as a user. So that
Yes.
user that it doesn't have root permissions and can't log in as root. So I tried, and I even tried to SSH as root to localhost. And I believe, I didn't look at it, but I believe that they appropriately disallow SSH logins to user root.
Yeah.
So the only way I didn't delve very far into because I just said, how do I get to be a root login on Debian 12? And ChatGPT told me, I Control Alt F1, I think it is. The Vulcan nerve pinch of the Linux world. That was how I got into it. I also make sudo no password. It's crazy to make somebody type their password every time they invoke Whisper daemon, and it's so anyway. I struggle along with never-ending Sisyphean tasks of developing software.
Yes.
As long as you're having fun.
Yes.
It at times I have fun. There were some of them were just it's gratifying. I mean, one of the mysterious. I'm wandering off, so if somebody has something to talk about, was that I uncovered. I keep learning about Linux. I didn't know about stuff. The find command, right, which is one of those 40-year-old commands. I was seeing on my consoles. I was seeing these messages appear. Find some dot 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 directory, can't find directory dot 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 dash mutex, and I couldn't figure out where they were coming from. I looked through all the finds and there was no place where I find explicitly looked for them. But it turns out that find works in a way that I didn't understand. That if you use find, it goes and gathers the whole list of all the candidate files. Then it goes back and it does its filtering. Well, find can get rescheduled by Linux in the middle of that process. So if a file or directory disappears during a reschedule event, you get these messages popping up. So I learned this from ChatGPT. I mean, I know that there's a lot, it hallucinates a lot, but boy, it led me right to that problem and how to solve it. I mean, I just explained to it what I was seeing, and it said, this is what find is doing, and this is how you fix it. You basically have to redirect standard error, out of find and put it someplace else so it doesn't go to the console. And so it's not really an error, but find has no place to stick this message, so it sends it out to standard error. So anyway,
Well,
those are actually, that was annoying because I saw this for a year, these find messages
Yes.
popping up. It was really annoying, but it was very gratifying to actually figure it out and suppress it. Actually, I learned how to even instrument the way it suggested I find the finds that were doing it. And I find files all over Whisper Daemon. There's a dozen different places. It actually showed me how to instrument the find command, create my own version of wrapper around find, and it printed out the actual line numbers that had were creating these error messages. So it saved me, potentially weeks of frustrating work in a half-hour session with ChatGPT. So I have to say I don't consider it to be intelligent. It's just a help desk for me, and it's not. I don't believe it all the time, but boy, it solves. If you use Git and wonder what's wrong, I immediately go to ChatGPT and just copy the whole block out of my terminal window and copy it and say, ask ChatGPT, what am I doing wrong and how do I fix it? And it tells me.
Yeah.
So there's, I think, a lot of help desk people that should be looking for new jobs.
Yeah.
Anyway, my opinion, my experience.
Well, that sound, find is a real old school Linux command. So
Yeah, you're used to doing things like ls star dot exe or something, that's that it turns out there's lots of problems with trying to use that in a script. You just do not want to use it. So I went through, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago and replaced all of the places where I was doing that, ls start at something with finds. And that's when these find messages started to show up. They were completely symptomless. I mean, I couldn't see that they had any effect on the operation of Whisper Daemon. But it was so annoying you'd be sitting there, I'd be sitting there in a debug session for something else, and bam, there would be one of these messages that would show up. It was just, it's funny. Anyway, it's good to still be learning. I feel, that's what it is. And these, they tell you as you age that it's, one of the ways to maintain brain health is to, work on puzzles and so on. And boy, I have no end.
This is a puzzle.
Yeah, there's no end of these puzzles. So I certainly feel well exercised intellectually by this. Anyway, I hope anyone like of you that are doing it are willing to suffer, do a git pull and get the latest stuff and tell me if something goes wrong, and I'm available to help. I was hoping, I thought Nathaniel sent me a note about how they, how can I be on call? I guess they didn't get to the stage of installing anything today, right? They just drove in and are having a dinner there. So I expect it.
I think he's got all week or most of the week with the students.
I think at least to Thursday. I think I think they're planning to do an install tomorrow and install Wednesday, and they're going to have a dinner Wednesday night, and then I guess leave on Thursday, I think is the plan. And I don't know what, let's hope it turns out well. I sure know, I think I probably should tell them this, but Glenn is now becoming quite insistent that forget the use of coax, use twisted pair for receive applications. So that's why Paul's little, adapter barge is so important, because
Yeah.
not only does it allow you to use twisted pair instead of coax. I mean, Glenn was saying, and I could see this. I was thinking this myself, is the importance of balanced feed lines is just and systems is so important, that why are we going to an SMA connector on the input to our SDR? It should be,
Yes.
by default, it should be a balanced input. It should, the A to D is a balanced input. Everything in this chain should be balanced. Okay, and to minimize the possibility of ingress, of RFI ingress. So I know that Dave wouldn't appreciate this for his DV8 design, but forget the SMA connector and the so on. Just go to a fully balanced design.
Yeah.
Oh, just make a change right now. Anyway, the little transformer is a pair is an alternative, and
Yeah.
and I don't think it's that much more lossy than RG6.
Oh.
I forget, but I'm hoping that I can start to do things like pull out my VNA and measure and run coax and put up a beacon. I want to put my 22 meter beacon back up, the Beehive beacon, for the Beehive
Yeah.
project, and so it'd be nice. It'd be nice to do something with hardware, but I've got a few more things. I was going to do meteor scatter. That's another thing I could work on. The never ending software
Yeah.
development.
Bill was reminding us about meteor scatters.
Yeah, I know. It's just another mode. And if I work on it, I know that the Perseids are coming up, and it would be a good time to do it. But there's meteors all the time, and hopefully that I just have to put it as a lower priority than working on the server and getting these sites up and running. I spent a lot of time working on a site where, as it turned out, with all of this error recovery now, Whisper Demon, it's hard to know what, when errors occur, they're almost invisible. And Tom Yarsh, KJ6 MKI, had his 888 went down entirely, and I sent him a replacement, and his replacement worked, but it was missing roughly every other whisper cycle. Sometimes it'd have 2 in a row, other times it has 3 in a row. And I could see that my error recovery that I just worked on for 2 months was hiding all of this, because it was recovering right away. But once I realized it was being hidden, I went and looked into it, and I saw that it's losing contact with the 888. It's no data from the 888. So foolishly, I thought it was a clock problem, because that's the one that we mostly see as the external clock is bad, and it stops. So I sent him a second replacement, which worked perfectly for me and didn't work there. Finally, I looked inside the D message, and I could see, oh, it's a USB problem. The USB connection's dropping.
Yeah.
I said, try a different cable, Tom. Sure enough, different USB cable solved the problem. So we need a USB cable, 3 cable tester as well. It's like Ethernet cable testers. They mostly test, unless you get I think, super expensive one, mostly test for DC connectivity. But we're interested in RF connectivity and quality. And
Dave, do you have a question?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, so it's hard to. I've had good experience with the USB 3 cables that came, which with the 888s, and they're what 3 meter cables. They're pretty long, or 2 meter cables. I think they're 2 meter cables, 6 feet, roughly 6 feet. They seem to work fine, but I'm not sure all of them do. And it's, these areas, these intermittent and sporadic errors are the worst to debug.
Yep.
And here I am, I know everything about it, and it took me 2 or 3 days to diagnose this problem. So.
Yep. Well, I need to go and spend some time
I
with
do
my
too.
wife, so
We
I'm
seem
going to
to
say
have,
73, but I'll leave the Zoom going for a while and come back and turn it off when people
okay.
log
Okay,
out.
I don't know if anybody else has things to talk about. It's no, seems pretty quiet evening. Yes, Scott, isn't it? It is our cable tester, but you just need to know how to test it. That's the what do we got there?
Very nice.
I don't. It's picture of the world, and I see some circles on it. It's a little small for me. What is this site? I haven't seen this display before.
Can you hear me talking now?
I don't know who's talking. I don't know
This is
who's
Bob,
sharing. Who's sharing?
N5ARG. I'm sharing. This
Oh,
is
what
my-
are you sharing, Bob?
What
That's
this is I started sharing and then I lost my Zoom screen where I could turn on my mic, and I finally got a way to do it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but this is, you were talking about meteors, and there's always meteors. This is a screen that shows the origin of meteors that were recorded last night. I'm doing, I have 4 meteor cameras that are watching for meteors every night. And this is not my station. We had rain here last night, which is very unusual in August, but lots of rain. But this is really a neat thing, I believe, is part of what's called the Global Meteor Network, which I'm involved with, and we upload these images every day from our cameras. And at the bottom here, it shows you the meteor showers that are active during different times of the year. And you can see the red line over here. We're coming right into August. We're in a pretty high meteor season right now, and then you're going to have a pretty big lull.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be back into another one here in advance of like Christmas time. So you can see there was quite a bit of activity here last night from all of these different showers. Each one of them is represented in this image.
The color indicates a specific shower location.
Yeah, a particular group of meteors that are the progenitor of that particular meteor that showed up at the QTH.
And I would presume the duration of the horizontal duration is the duration of the shower.
Yeah, these are his images from the night. Okay, and this is a collection that's limited to just the ones that had meteors in it. This is a full view of all the airplanes and everything that went over. You can see the flashing in the airplane lights. And this is an AI reduction trying to sort out the airplanes and just give you the actual meteors that were seen or counted, and then back calculated for the actual shower that generated them. And then ideally you'll have overlap between 2 or 3 guys' cameras. Like there's a fellow that's a friend of mine operating 4 cameras in Oklahoma also. And we have our cameras coordinated to be overlapping. So you could, if you had a meteor that comes all the way to the ground, they have software and everything to help calculate within a pretty high degree of accuracy of where it hits the ground. So you can go off and look for it.
Ah, that's great. Is this a public site?
Yes, you can go to Global Meteor Network /status, and you will see
Oh.
all the US images there in this format like this. And you see this looks a lot like the camera, the receiver map that this group operates. And like my meteor cameras are right down here. So
Yeah.
if I zoom in on it, you can see I have 4 cameras, and you can see the trajectory of the 4 cameras looking off there. And then they have a color code to tell you the activity. I got credit for uploading last night, but I really shouldn't have, because my cameras were all seeing a lot of clouds and rain through the night. So there is a code for cloudy night that it should have kicked in, but it did not. But this is a very sophisticated group that's worldwide that really does a lot of interesting information on meteors. The UK is almost totally covered. We're not, can you make this stop? We're not really covered very well, like for instance, out in California.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of activity out there. So
What's that? What's your coverage, a typical coverage for a site like yours out on a flat area?
it's pretty wide. This thing will, let's see, this map will show you that, if I can remember how to turn that on. That's not it. There is a way to make it tell you, or to show you that coverage. Let's see. Okay, you can change date there too if you want to backdate it, I guess.
Yeah.
This is a web page one of the people wrote. It's amazing. But there's a way to get the thing to bloom out with circles, and it goes out several hundred miles for overlap. So here's the one in I think that's the one in Oklahoma right up there. So between these 2 stations, one idea I have is the guy's a ham too, and he's got his equipment in the Texas astronomy site. They have about, I don't know, 50 or 60 acres up there for telescopes, and they all have a bunch of pads that they mount their telescopes. And so maybe he would put up a beacon up there, and we could listen back down this way. It's not quite over the horizon, probably for 6 meters, but it's approaching it. And I have a friend that's over here in Wichita Falls that could also transmit. And so incorporate radio too.
Yeah. Well, this is a whole new, branch of beaconing that the meteor part, but the beacon part of it. And I certainly, as I hope I didn't indicate that I'm not interested. I'm very interested in it, and having all of our sites now, especially if they're running at 129. It appears, I think, even the DXE does have response. They may have a low pass filter on 30 megahertz. The SAS antennas go up to 200 megahertz, so they have very good 6 meter response. So Glenn and Clint, I think have been logging, mostly FT8 and 4. There are a few 6 meter whisper beacons, but the meteor scatter seems, might be much more interesting, because especially as we fall off the peak of the solar cycle, meteor scatter will probably be a much more common on 6 meters for DXing than a whisper would be, even on 10 meters. So I think it's very interesting. I gather there are the meteor scatter transmissions typically are 15 seconds. Do you actually have a QSO in the space of a meteor?
Well, there are different reasons for doing meteor scatter, though.
Yeah,
I guess I was more interested in it from a scientific point of view, where you're just recording the
Yeah, beaconing
the
is,
beaconing
yeah.
that happens over the night, for instance, and
Yeah.
collecting it and then finding a way to present that. But yeah, there are guys around here that are operating meteor scatter and airplane contrail scatter too. And
Mhm.
yeah, you can have their basic goal most of the time is just make a quick QSO over some
Mhm.
long distance because of the added advantage.
I didn't know that you could get QSOs through contrails.
Yeah.
They refract, I guess they would. This is,
Mhm.
and they last a little longer than meteors. It's meteor trails, right?
Yeah, they can. Yes.
The meteor trails, well, of course, they would vary with the size of the meteor, but what's typical for
I don't know. I would be guessing, but I think you're ionizing the area, and so it takes some time for it to settle back down. So you have some minutes probably.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting. We can, it's great to have new things to investigate. So,
Yeah, sure it is.
I think you donated me an Orange Pi 5, right?
Well, I was hoping you had that running. I heard you mention the orange pie, some things you were doing with it, so I hope you have.
I did. I got it running. It's running just perfectly, but I'm not using it, and I'm not
Well,
really.
that's good.
If you have any use for it.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay.
You hang on to it or park
Okay,
it
well,
with someone else that can work with
yeah.
it if you can.
Yeah, it's come out as I've started to, work, especially learning about the CPU speed and power and heat trade-off. That he turned down the clock speed on a B-Link, and it's down to 17 watts. It's not so different than not much more than an Orange Pi 5. It's 12 watts versus 15 watts, and the power of a Ryzen 7 eight core Ryzen 7. Of course, the Orange Pi is 8 core, so I guess but the Orange Pi, the Ryzen is much more powerful than the Orange Pi, so it's 4 times more computational power.
Yeah. I posted a note in the chat too, and people were talking about the UPS stuff. I've got this. This was a crowd-sourced UPS. I've got it plugged in here on a Pi 4 board, and it has an iron. Let's see what's it called? Iron, lithium iron, I guess, battery.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
runs for minutes on this battery if you lose power. So this is another option that you can still get these through that link that I have in the chat. If somebody needs something for their Pi to keep it running through a power, we have a lot of like short-term power outages around here.
Yeah.
I have one on the magnetometer station. So it has not shut down, I'm pretty sure, since I put that on there.
I have I've played with a bunch of them. Not that they don't do the same thing that these super cap based ones do, because that's for an extremely short interruption before the UPS can kick in completely. But I've worked with these, particularly these ones from WaveShare, and not using the 18650s, but using the next size bigger batteries that they're promoting now. And with 4 of them, I ran it really wasn't doing all that much except keeping track of how long it had been running. But I ran a Pi 4, I think, for a day and a half, I think, before it shut down. From a full charge. It was 30. It was no, it was. I think it was right around a day and a half, anyway. And it's still just it just sits, screws onto the bottom of the Pi, and there's some smaller ones that just use 2 batteries, but this one has 4, and they're the larger kind. But there's some nice little setups out there using, pretty current, uh, there's some, a lot of new power, um, chips designed for that kind of application, and new technology that in recent, in the last year or so have been kind of coming on the market. So, and these can be charged at the same time you're running them, without, without any calamity too. So I want to experiment. That's why I'd like to experiment with the ones for real short holdover as well.
I think that one of the motivations for the super cap is that it kind of has an infinite life. It's so whereas if you even if you don't cycle a battery, it has a 5 year or so, five years typical of lifetime. So if you just want to set and forget, I guess the super cap is works well for that way.
You can
But
probably put more faith in an off-the-shelf, um, UPS, small UPS that's designed for a router or something too, to keep some of these things up if you have that in the mix as well, I
yeah,
would think.
yeah, it's well, I think I'm looking forward to putting in the super caps out at KFS and KPH, because I've definitely, I had, last month had an occasion where one of the servers just locked up. It would respond to pings, but nothing else. And it had to have a whole power cycle and to restore its operation. So
Yeah, the problem is it's real risky when you have that happen. It can just not even come back at all. You have to go rebuild the whole system.
yeah, I've never encountered that. Yeah, I haven't the journaling file systems that, the ext4 file system, in my experience, is incredibly reliable, and I have not had a system that
Couldn't recover.
that yeah, I mean, and we did some tests where we cycled, randomly cycled power on a system for thousands of cycles and weren't able they always came back up. So I'm perhaps it's just that we're not doing anything. In my software, I do everything I can to avoid writing to the root file system. And maybe that helps make it less sensitive. All of the WAV files and so on are recorded into a RAM disk file system. So the only data that gets stuffed into the root file system are things that you want to preserve. The spots that you haven't yet uploaded to WhisperNet. You want to save those around until you know that WhisperNet has them, and you want those spots to persist through a power outage. So I do write some to file systems, and Phil has suggested I'm excessively sensitive, or I worry excessively about wearing out SSDs. But I figure, why use an SSD when you don't need it? So also, if your software runs amok, which mine never does, of course, that you fill up, if you fill up a different file system, you don't corrupt the root and file system, and that's something that's hard to recover from. Is Linux can have a hard time recovering if you absolutely fill up the root file system. You can't, I think my experience, you can't initiate new terminal sessions. So unless you're logged in, you're kind of, or have a console access, you're hosed. So I've been very cautious about putting files and putting in watchdogs to make sure I don't overflow the root file system. Because, when you got receivers down in Antarctica or up in Greenland, boy, getting somebody out there to power cycle them is, and walking them through, how to clean out the file system is a pain. So anyway, I seem to have driven everybody off. But anyway, nice to talk to you guys. What's the progress? Any progress on the DV8 design?
On the
I call it your DV8.
DV8, DV8. Oh, I see. I've done a bit, but I've been really trying to get this thing working for Nathaniel. He seemed to want that badly first, so they can get on with ordering the other things. But I've gone back and I put in an order for that last night.
What is this? For
Oh,
him?
it's it's so you can run the magnetometer directly off of
Oh, right, off of the
B-Link.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or really anything, and it's a pi eliminator is what I've called it. But
Oh, yeah. Well, that's appropriately. That's more important.
yeah, but no, I've been spending. But the fact is, I've just been spending all my time in KiCad, and so I'm kind of in that mode. And now I've, for the moment, gotten all those other things done, and sat down today, in fact, and worked on the other. So on the deviate, as you say, and so that's. I still learn things about the CAD package all the time too, and it never. I'm starting to want to go to a newer version, but because I've learned some frustrations. So, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep on where I am. So, hopefully, I really hope to have something completely out to send off before I leave the country later this month, but which is, about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm going to leave the last weekend or the last week in August, and so I truly hope to have something that's worth the cost of, it's not that things are that much more expensive, but they're just enough more expensive that you don't want to do as many spins of the boards as I used to be willing to do. I just keep doing them over and over again until I got it right. And wanting, the
tariffs make that rather increase the cost dramatically.
Yeah, it adds up. It adds up, and so. But I'm in that mode. So I was really very frustrated. Some things I had tried to do didn't work or didn't seem to work, and I finally became suspicious. Haven't completely proved it, but I became suspicious that it wasn't that they weren't working. It was that I wasn't testing them correctly. And I think I have that. I hope I have that sorted out for now. But hopefully that'll help.
Okay, well, I'm not intending to pressure you, just expressing my interest. So.
I know, I understand.
Okay.
I gotta get on.
Okay, well, good luck. And I think we're kind of done here. I think I'm
All right.
about okay.
See
Take
you.
care, everyone.
See you
Take
guys.
care.
Bye.